Don't shoot! I haven't seen anything yet. Those were the first words out of my mouth as I reached the bottom step of the basement stairs at 1:07 a.m. My hands shot up instinctively, palms open, heart slamming against my ribs so hard I could feel it in my throat. The fluorescent tube overhead flickered wildly for a few seconds, blink blink, steady, casting harsh white light across the damp concrete floor. A woman stood in the far corner near the water heater about 10 feet away, mid-30s, brown hair matted and dripping from the rain strands escaping a hasty ponytail. Her denim jacket was soaked dark sleeves, pushed up to the elbows, water pooling at her feet. In both hands she gripped a small black pistol barrel pointed directly at my chest. No mask, no gloves, no bag, just raw, exhausted desperation etched into her face. She didn't look like a professional burglar, but the gun looked terrifyingly real. "Stay right there," she said, voice trembling at the edges but trying to stay firm. "Don't come any closer." I froze, one foot still on the last tread, the other hovering above the cold floor. The extension cord I'd come down for still hung forgotten on its hook a few meters to my left. "You live here?" she asked, eyes darting around the room, cardboard boxes covered in dust, old bookshelves, the water heater, a few faded plastic toys abandoned years ago. "Yeah," I answered, keeping my tone even. "This is my house." She exhaled sharply, almost a groan. "Damn it, I'm sorry." Before I could process the apology, a sharp metallic click echoed from above. We both snapped our heads toward the stairs. The heavy oak basement door, reinforced with a spring-loaded closer after a string of petty thefts in the neighborhood last year, had swung shut on its own. I'd meant to fix that damn spring for months. Always postponed. I lunged up 2 steps, grabbed the knob, twisted hard. Nothing. Shouldered it. Still locked. "Don't tell me—" she started, voice dropping. "The basement only opens from the outside," I confirmed, throat dry. "My mother installed it that way for safety. She's at my grandmother's tonight family memorial gathering. Won't be back until around 8 in the morning." She closed her eyes for a single long second, then leaned back against the cinder block wall. "So, we're trapped here. All night." I eased back down the last step, slowly lowered myself onto the old wooden chair beside the workbench, keeping as much distance as the small room allowed. The pistol stayed trained on me, though her arms were starting to sag slightly as if the weight was becoming too much. For the first few minutes, my mind spun in tight circles around one thought, only I was locked in my own basement with a stranger holding a gun. And we had 7 long hours until that door opened. Rain hammered the small high window above the washing machine, the one she must have pried open to get in. Water dripped steadily from the sill, forming a shallow puddle that reflected the buzzing light. Her wet footprints trailed across the floor like dark accusations. I studied her more closely now that the initial shock had dulled into something manageable. No practiced criminal posture. Her grip on the pistol was high on the frame finger, consistently outside the trigger guard elbow, bent instead of locked amateur stance. Yet amateurs could be the most unpredictable. She shifted her weight eyes, flicking between me and the locked door above. I took a slow breath. "You okay?" She gave a short, bitter laugh without looking up. "Do I look okay now?" She looked like someone who had run out of every other option. Silence stretched again, broken only by the rain and the occasional drip from her jacket. The furnace in the corner clicked on, blowing warm, dusty air that smelled faintly of old cardboard and concrete. I decided to try something safer. "What's your name?" She hesitated, then met my eyes for the first time without pure threat. "Maya." I nodded, filing away the tiny pause. "Probably not real. And you?" she asked. "Ethan." She gave a small nod, then fell quiet again. The pistol remained between us, like an unspoken boundary. 7 hours. No escape. Just 2 strangers, one fake or real gun, and the relentless rain outside. My mind raced through possibilities. Call for help. No signal down here. Reason with her risky waited out. Only option left. I kept my hands visible on my thighs, palms up. Non-threatening. She finally spoke again, voice quieter. "I didn't plan this. I just needed something. Anything. Thought the house was empty. Lights off, no car, no movement." I nodded slowly. "Happens." She looked at me, then really looked as if surprised I hadn't exploded in anger. "I'm not going to hurt you," she said suddenly, almost like she was convincing herself. I can't go back out there empty-handed. Not tonight." I didn't reply right away. Instead, I glanced at the clock on the wall, 1:12 a.m. Still 6 hours and 48 minutes to go. The rain kept falling. The furnace sighed. And somewhere upstairs, the house was silent, waiting for morning. We were sealed in together whether we liked it or not. The first hour stretched into an unbearable eternity. The basement felt smaller with every passing minute, walls pressing in under the low hum of the fluorescent light and the relentless patter of rain against the small high window. She remained pressed against the far corner, back to the cold cinder block pistol still in both hands, but barrel now angled toward the floor instead of my chest. I stayed seated on the rickety wooden chair beside the workbench, spine rigid, palms resting visibly on my thighs. No sudden gestures, no reaching for anything. Silence wrapped around us like thick fog. I could hear my own pulse in my ears, the faint drip from her soaked jacket forming a slow puddle, the occasional creak of the house settling overhead. The wall clock ticked audibly 1:15 a.m. More than 6.5 hours remained. Each second carried fresh weight as though the air itself was thickening. I broke the quiet before it could turn dangerous, kept my voice steady, almost casual. "What were you planning to take?" She scanned the room once more. Dusty cardboard boxes stacked against one wall, sagging bookshelves crammed with yellowed paperbacks, the rumbling water heater, a handful of faded plastic toys left behind from childhood. Her gaze lingered briefly on the toys, then flicked away. "Honestly," she said, exhaling through her nose, "I hadn't thought that far." The admission caught me off guard more than the weapon ever had. "You broke in without an exit strategy." A short, self-mocking laugh escaped her. "Desperation makes people stupid. I saw the dark windows, no car in the drive, no lights, figured the place was vacant. I didn't expect company." I nodded, slowly processing. "You need money?" She hesitated, then gave a single sharp nod. "My daughter's 6. She's been sick, high fevers that won't break. The medicine costs more than I have left. Hospital bills are piling up. My ex doesn't send anything. I tried new jobs, applied everywhere. No one's hiring. Tonight I thought maybe a few things I could sell would cover the next prescription." Her voice trailed off, thin with shame. She stared at the concrete between us, avoiding my eyes. I studied her again in the unforgiving light. No aggression in her posture anymore, just bone-deep fatigue. Shoulders slumped, knuckles white around the grip, but the finger stayed clear of the trigger. The way she held the pistol looked wrong, too high on the frame, elbow soft stance, unbalanced. Not someone trained, not someone comfortable. The furnace kicked on again, pushing warm, dusty air into the space. It carried the faint scent of mildew and old paper. Rain continued drumming above, steady and indifferent. I risked another question. "How long have you been out there in the rain?" She glanced up, surprised by the shift. "Long enough to get soaked through." I walked 3 blocks from the bus stop. Didn't want to use the car, too easy to trace. Smart in a desperate way. I filed that detail away. Silence returned, shorter this time. The clock showed 1:28. Progress, maybe. She shifted her weight, winced slightly, perhaps a cramp from standing rigid so long. "You're not yelling or threatening to call the police. If I thought that would help, I'd have done it already," I said quietly. "We're locked down here. Shouting won't change that." She gave a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. The pistol dipped another inch. I kept my hands still. "I'm not going anywhere. Neither are you. We might as well talk instead of staring at each other until dawn." She considered that for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, "Ethan, right?" "Yeah." Another pause. "I said Maya earlier. It's not my real name." I figured, I replied. Most people don't give their real one in situations like this. A ghost of a smile touched her lips, gone in an instant. "You read a lot of crime novels, enough to know the basics." She exhaled, shoulders dropping a fraction more. "I used to read them too, before life got complicated." The admission hung between us. Not quite a bridge, but the first crack in the wall. The clock ticked to 1:35. Rain kept falling. The puddle under her grew slowly. I didn't push further. Let the quiet settle again, this time less hostile, more watchful. She eventually spoke, voice softer. "I never wanted to do this. Point a gun at someone. Scare them. I just ran out of choices." I met her gaze steadily. "I believe you." She looked away first, but the tension in her jaw eased slightly. 1:42 a.m. Still hours ahead, but the atmosphere had shifted just a little. Not trust, not safety, but something closer to understanding. The night was far from over. We were still trapped. But for the first time since the door slammed shut, it felt possible we might survive it without anyone getting hurt. By 3 o'clock, the basement had grown quieter. The rain had softened to a light drizzle, tapping gently on the high window instead of hammering. The fluorescent light buzzed steadily, its harsh glow making shadows stark. The furnace had cycled a few times, sending brief waves of warm, dusty air through the space. We had talked in short bursts for nearly 2 hours about the weather, the cold walls, the house's occasional creaks. Nothing personal yet. Just enough to prevent the silence from turning sharp again. The pistol now rested loosely against her thigh barrel, down her grip relaxed. I kept glancing at it. Something had bothered me from the start. Her hold was awkward, fingers too high on the frame elbow. Bent finger never near the trigger. Every so often her eyes dropped to the gun with a flicker of uncertainty, as if she didn't fully trust it. During a lull I asked directly, voice calm, "Do you know how to use that?" She answered instantly. "No." No bluff, no. No pause. I nodded. "Can I see it?" She studied me for several seconds. The clock ticked past 3:04. Rain dripped slowly from the sill. Then she extended her arm, turning the pistol grip first. Slowly. I stood carefully, hands visible, and stepped forward. She leaned in slightly to hand it over. The instant I took it, I knew. It was far too light. Plastic, not metal. The balance felt cheap and wrong. I turned it over, matte black, finished textured grip slide serrations, all realistic from afar. But close up, the flaws showed no serial number, no real ejection port, no moving magazine release. I racked the slide gently. It moved with smooth, silent plastic travel, no spring tension, no metallic snap. Toy, replica, completely harmless. I let out a slow breath, half relief, half disbelief. For 3 hours I had weighed every word, convinced one mistake could mean a muzzle flash. I looked up at her. "You had me completely fooled." She raised an eyebrow, a trace of wry humor appearing for the first time. Why I kept thinking one wrong sentence and I'd be eating lead. She let out a surprised laugh, short at first, then fuller, echoing off the concrete. Her shoulders dropped visibly. The strain in her posture melted away. She covered her mouth, shaking her head. "I bought it at a novelty store 2 years ago," she said, "for a Halloween thing. Figured it looked real enough to scare someone if I ever needed to. Look dangerous. Never thought I'd actually use it like this." I placed the toy on the workbench between us with a soft clack. The sound felt absurd in the quiet. "Very convincing," I said dryly. "You did great." She laughed again, softer, then rubbed her face with both hands, wiping away fatigue. "I feel stupid now." "Don't," I replied. It kept things under control. She met my eyes directly, no barrier left. Tired but clearer. Silence settled, comfortable this time. I sat back down. "Now that the gun's fake, can I ask something real?" She crossed her arms, leaning against the wall more easily. "Try me. Is Maya your real name?" She paused, then sighed. "No." I thought so. How I shrugged lightly. "I read a lot of detective novels. People rarely use real names when breaking in." She smiled, small, genuine, warm. "Good observation." Another quiet moment. The clock read 3:12. She straightened. "Laura. It's Laura." "Laura," I repeated. It suited her better. She nodded, as if confirming it for herself too. The toy pistol sat between us like a silly reminder of the night's strangeness. The rain had nearly stopped. The furnace clicked off. For the first time since the door slammed, the basement no longer felt like a cage. It felt like a place where two strangers were finally beginning to talk. With the toy gun exposed on the workbench, the basement transformed. The air lightened. The invisible barrier dissolved. Laura slid down the wall to sit on the floor opposite me, knees drawn up, arms loosely around them. The clock read 3:15 a.m. She spoke first, voice steady now. "I'm divorced 2 years. My ex left us with nothing. I have a 6-year-old daughter. She gets fevers that spike without warning. The medicine is expensive. Bills stack up. My part-time job at the bookstore cut hours again last month. I'm drowning." She paused, staring at her hands. "I used to read crime novels every night. They were my escape. When you're a single mom with no safety net, books are the only place you still control the ending." I nodded. "I do the same. One chapter before sleep. Keeps my head from spinning." She looked up, a faint spark in her eyes. "What's your favorite Raymond Chandler? The Long Goodbye. The way Marlowe keeps going even when everything's broken." She smiled slightly. "I like Tana French. The way she builds tension in ordinary places. Makes you feel the dread before anything happens." We traded titles quietly. Connolly, Rankin, Christie, a few modern ones. The conversation shifted naturally, jobs that vanished, choices that backfired, the quiet terror of starting over alone. At 4:20 a.m., she said, "I never wanted to scare anyone. Tonight was supposed to be quick. Grab something sellable, leave. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect to spend the night talking to an intruder," I replied. She gave a small laugh. "Worst burglary in history. Best conversation I've had in months." Silence returned, comfortable now. The furnace hummed softly. Rain had stopped. Only occasional drips from the eaves remained. Around 5 a.m., she glanced up the dark staircase. When the door opens, I'll leave. Fast. I know. She met my gaze. You won't call the police if I planned to. I would have done it hours ago. She exhaled a tension easing from her face. Thank you. We sat in quiet after that. No more words needed. The clock moved steadily toward dawn. At 6:45 a.m., faint light began filtering through the high window. The house above stirred creaks of floorboards, distant water running. My mother was awake. Laura stood slowly brushing dust from her jeans. Almost time. I stood too. Be careful out there. She nodded. You too. The toy gun still lay on the workbench, forgotten. We waited together in the dimming dark, no longer strangers. Part 5. The ending at 7:58 a.m. The sound of keys turning in the front door upstairs cut through the quiet. Footsteps, then my mother's voice calling my name from the kitchen. The basement door latch clicked open. Pale morning light poured down the stairs. Laura stood first. She brushed dust from her jeans, zipped her damp jacket, glanced once at the toy gun still lying on the workbench. I'm going, she said simply. I nodded. Take care. She hesitated at the bottom step, then turned back. Thank you. For everything. You're welcome. She climbed the stairs quickly, footsteps fading. The front door opened and closed softly. She was gone. I stayed sitting a moment longer, staring at the empty space where she had been. The basement felt larger now, colder. I picked up the plastic pistol, turned it over in my hand, then set it back down. Pointless souvenir. Upstairs, my mother asked why I looked so tired. I mumbled something about a bad night's sleep. She didn't press. Days passed. Weeks. The toy gun stayed on the workbench. I never moved it. 6 months later, early autumn air crisp, I sat at my usual corner table in the small independent bookstore cafe 2 streets from home. Same worn armchair, same black coffee, same half-read Tana French paperback open in front of me. The bell above the door chimed. I looked up without thinking. Laura. She wore a clean gray coat, hair tied back neatly, a canvas tote slung over one shoulder. No rain, no desperation. She scanned the room, spotted me, and paused. A small, surprised smile crossed her face. She walked over slowly. Ethan. Laura. She didn't sit right away, just stood beside the table, fingers tightening on the tote strap. I come here sometimes, she said, to read on my lunch break. I work full-time now, assistant manager at this very store. Started 3 months ago. I closed the book. Congratulations. She nodded. My daughter's doing better. The fevers are under control. We're still paying off debts, but the pressure, it's less. I sleep through most nights now. She looked different. Not transformed, not suddenly carefree, just steadier. The sharp edges of exhaustion had softened. I almost didn't come in today, she admitted. Saw you through the window and thought about turning around. Why didn't you? Because I wanted to say thank you again. Properly. And because I wondered if you'd still remember that night. I remember. A beat of silence. Comfortable, not awkward. She shifted her weight. I should get back to work. She started to turn, then stopped. Ethan, if you ever want to talk about books again, or anything, I'm here most afternoons. I looked at her, really looked. No gun, no fear, no locked door between us. Just 2 people who had survived a strange night. I might take you up on that, I said. She smiled, small, real uncertain in the best way. See you around then. She walked toward the counter, disappeared behind a shelf. I opened my book again, but didn't read. Outside, leaves drifted past the window. The cafe bell chimed as someone else entered. I didn't look up this time, but I knew the door was still open.